Welcome back to the Yappington channel where I'm gonna yap about something and you cannot disagree with me because I know ball. And today we are going to talk about the Resident Evil animated films. So I decided to do this to honor the release of the new Resident Evil game, which is Resident Evil 9. And if you are wondering why I am not talking about the games, it's because I haven't played the classic Resident Evil 2 and 3 games. And I thought that it would be a disservice to the mainline continuity of the games if I haven't played the classic games. But I did play the remake of Resident Evil 2 and 3, so I still know a bit of the story. But that being said, if you guys don't know, these animated films, are still actually part of the continuity and they still actually affect the lore of the games because they are still a part of it. They are positioned in between the games, so it's a continuation of a story. So, that being said, let us begin. So, to kick it off, let us begin with the first one, which is the oldest one, Resident Evil Degeneration. So, I am going to put this in B. So, why B? Well, it's a simple Resident Evil, it's a simple Resident Evil animated movie, and it's also mid at the same time. But it's not a bad film in any way. It's actually a solid film. It's not an innovative Resident Evil film, right? And in my opinion, that is a pro of this movie because I actually appreciate what the studio did. They actually ground this movie very much in comparison to, like, let's say Resident Evil 6 or Resident Evil 8, where it's like borderline supernatural. The virus is affecting the city. There's multiple giants. There are airplanes crashing down from side to side. No, this film is a grounded film. If I remember correctly, they moved the two locations only, like the airport and the lab, which, like I said, I appreciate. I appreciate that it didn't start from a global catastrophe or the virus doesn't present like a global threat. And that's a good decision in my opinion because it is the start of the animated films. The studio decided to keep it small and it played to their advantage. They introduced a new character. So they introduced a new character named Angela in this film, which is actually, in my opinion, a good addition. Which is actually a good addition to the other protagonists of the film, which is Claire and Leon, which, as always, are badasses. They are never a bad part of any game or film. They're always good. So, the additional character can be a hit or miss if you put these two together, which I'm actually glad that she isn't. She actually plays a huge part in the film because the main villain is her brother, and the production team actually gave her a compelling story to be, a character that you appreciate in the film. She's not useless by any means. She actually does a lot. She helps Leon a lot to battling this virus. She didn't feel like an assistant. She is a competitive character in the film, which I appreciate. That being said, that's the last pro in terms of like addition to the film. So in terms of pacing, this film is actually paced really well. It is a simple Resident Evil film. It has a start, it has a middle arc, and then it has a final arc, and that's it. It's a simple freaking movie, right? So it doesn't drag, it doesn't get boring because it's easy to digest, it's easy to watch, you're not gonna get bored by it, and there's actually something that's happening that you won't feel bad watching, I guess, because the quality is really good, the animation is really good. I really hated the villain though, or not just the villain, I actually hated all of the other characters apart from the main three characters. The main three characters are the only ones that does something in the film, and the villain is boring. He actually reminded me of the villain from Resident Evil 0. He's just this edgy, long-haired emo dude who wanted to like be better and then use the virus to do that, which it's a boring way to do a villain. In my opinion, his motivation is really boring too. But again, it is the first one in the animated film, so I guess I'll forgive them for that. But yeah, the other characters are also boring. Like there's a lot of side characters here. The family, the other agents which Angela is related to, and there's this like shadowy government which doesn't do anything in the film. They barely did anything in the film. Actually, they're just there in order to say that, oh, there's a shadowy government, and then that's that. They just presented that group in order to say that there's a shadowy organization that's in the background that will be presented in like the future films. Apart from that, nah. The family that Claire also protects, also boring. You don't give a damn about them, I guess. But yeah, that's talking about the characters, other characters. Now, for the most important part of any Resident Evil film, of course, the action scenes. The action scenes in this film is actually passable. I mean, it's not bad in any way, but it's not innovative either. It doesn't present anything new. It's actually just good. It has good action scenes, right? It's like a typical Resident Evil action scene. So that's Resident Evil Degeneration. I felt that the film is at a deserving place, and that place will be Abby. Next up, we got Resident Evil Damnation. I'm gonna put this one in A. In my opinion, this Resident Evil animated film has the best story among all of this, right? I think this takes place in between Resident Evil 5 and 6. That being said, this Resident Evil movie reminded me the most of Resident Evil 4, right? And Resident Evil 4, as we all know, is arguably the most, is arguably the best Resident Evil game out of all the Resident Evil games. The closest one is maybe 2, but we'll get into that later, or in the future, I guess. But yes, this film reminded me of Resident Evil 4. Like, it almost has the same story, right? Like, Leon is dropped off alone in this like town, and he has to retrieve something. In 4, it is the virus and Ashley, and here he is to retrieve a bioweapon or stop it from getting to the hands of a bad organization. Almost the same as Resident Evil 4, right? This actually has the best story because it presented the government. It presented a civil war, which, in my opinion, is an original idea in terms of being a Resident Evil, in terms of being a part of the Resident Evil franchise. So there's actually a civil war that's happening between the Slavic government, I think, versus its rebels. So the rebels are trying to get the bioweapon from their hands in order to use it against them. And this bioweapon is actually a cool bioweapon. It's basically like a brainwashing type of bioweapon, also like the civil war, the government versus rebels. It's also an original concept, and it's actually the main strongest point of this film. The villains in this film has actual motivation that is thrilling. It actually makes sense on why they are doing it, and as a viewer, you appreciate that. It's something that you see that they actually try to do something new, right? And you don't know which side are you on, because both of the sides are trying to get their hands on something that the groups, the main protagonists, as always from a Resident Evil film, is trying to stop. They're always trying to get this weapon in order to prevent it from getting into the wrong hands. And this time there's two sides trying to get that, and you don't know who to side with because they have their own purpose for it. And that is why I think that's why this story works. It has something to give that the audience can ponder something into. They have something to think about, and it's actually interesting. Speaking of story, this actually has also good pacing. It doesn't drag, it's not boring. It actually has good action scenes. The animation of the action scenes in here are smooth. The gunfights are awesome. Of course, they still have that syndrome of barely reloading. It also featured one of the best hand-to-hand combat. The one where Ada was fighting the president of the Slavic country, which was unusual and sexy at the same time. It just overall it actually has good action. It has better action in comparison to the first one, which is of course an advantage because it's released in a later date. But overall, to summarize, this film has great pacing. It actually has the most interesting story among all of these animated films, in my opinion. The rebels versus the government, and who is the first one to get hands on the virus wins. It's such a breath of fresh air in terms of Resident Evil stories. It's just not a protagonist trying to stop the bioweapon from getting to the wrong hands or stopping the virus from spreading to the city. They actually tried to put a twist on it to keep things fresh and original. Now, I want to talk about why I put this in A and not S. And I want to talk about the action scenes being in its detriment, and why this landed in A rather than in S. And the reason for that is in the final act of this film, the action actually kind of get repetitive, in my opinion. The action in the final act of this film is just running and shooting, rinse, repeat. And that kind of got a little stale in my opinion. And it actually felt like a filler for a final arc, which is very unusual because the final arc is supposed to be the strongest, which isn't the case in here. Like I said, it gets stale, it gets repetitive, and they gave Leon the most insane plot armor in this film. I don't know how he survived that barrage of attacks from that tyrant, to the point that in the end they spawned 5 tyrants and he had to be saved by jets because Leon Kennedy cannot die. If Leon Kennedy dies, Resident Evil dies along with him. So they gave him extreme excuse just to survive. The final act is just them running away and then just trying to survive, and then boom, the film has its ending, which the ending of this film is actually solid when Leon decides to shoot that survivor. That's actually cool, but the scenes before that, it got kind of stale. So next up, Resident Evil Vendetta. This is going to be the first S among these films, and I feel like anyone will agree with this on me, that this is the first S among this. In my opinion, it had good everything. It's actually a complete package in terms of being a Resident Evil film. It had a great story from start to finish in comparison to Resident Evil Damnation, despite that having the best story among all of this. This one has a cohesive and coherent story that everyone will actually enjoy. It had the greatest action scene of all time in terms of this Resident Evil films. And I feel like this is the Resident Evil film that is open to the general public. They will enjoy it. They wouldn't complain that, oh, who is this, who is that, why is he doing this, what's the purpose of that. Nah, it's just an enjoyable film. Like it's an enjoyable standalone film that even if it's not a Resident Evil film, like let's say it had another title, it will still be a standalone film. So let's talk about the story. The story of this again is a simple story. Of course, it's a Resident Evil story. You know, like there's a villain, there's a virus. They either want to take over the world or infect someone, or they want to use a bioweapon to use for their own good. You know, the typical formula for a Resident Evil story. It's not that I'm complaining. It's just it's simple. It's simple and effective, and if it works, then it works, right? Barely any innovation in terms of like formula, but like I said, if it works, it works. Pacing wise, this film is wonderfully paced in my opinion. It doesn't drag, it doesn't get boring. It's actually engaging up until the end. Like I said, if you present this to the general audience, they wouldn't get bored because it is paced very, very well. The direction of this film is actually really, really good also, because it actually knows how to hook you as a viewer on how it presents its scenes. If they did any storyboarding for this, which I feel like they did, it actually paid off. Like it actually is shown perfectly on the movie. And if they didn't storyboard at all, it still worked. So in relation to that, let's talk about the action scenes. The action scenes in this film is insane, dude. There's two in particular that stand out to me. The motorcycle scene and the elevator scene. The Leon and Chris tag team. It's probably the best action scene among all of these Resident Evil films. Like if you ask someone what's the best action scene in all of these Resident Evil films, it's probably that, the final scene of Resident Evil Death Island, or the final fight scene of this where it's just Chris versus the villain. They were doing this hand-to-hand combat while using the pistol. It's just this probably had like the most iconic fight scene among all of these films. Like you will accept that they reload at like the wrong time because they nearly had infinite bullets, and I feel like the animators said that, hey, maybe we should make them reload because we forgot about it, and then boom, they just insert random reload times and then just call it a day. But yeah, action scenes are excellent, gunfights are excellent, hand-to-hand combat are excellent. You can actually again feel the impact. You can actually that they had like plan in terms of like action choreography, and it actually shows on screen, man. As a viewer, you will appreciate everything they did in terms of action. Now, with that out of the way, let's talk about the characters. The characters here are all excellent, apart from maybe some, right? Like in terms of like the main characters, you know, Leon, Rebecca, and Chris, all of them are excellent as always. As a long-time protagonist of like the Resident Evil films, you tend to expect that they will be excellent, and they are. It's kind of cool that they also have like distinction in terms of like the skills they present in the film. And it's actually noticeable, like Chris is a rifleman, he uses explosive and he's more of a brute, while Leon uses more of like handguns. He's more agile, he's faster, and Rebecca, again, he's a chemist. She's knowledgeable in terms of chemistry. She's a professor, she's really smart. It's kind of cool to see those distinctions still remain, because they are iconic traits of these characters, right? They are iconic traits of these characters that is shown in their game counterparts. Now let's go to the villains. The villains in here are okay. They're not good. They're also not bad, but I will say he is more memorable in terms of being a villain, right? Like a single villain. The villain in The Generation is easily forgettable. The villain in Damnation is, you know, the government. And in here, as a singular villain, I can still remember him, I guess. He can be stupid at times because of his vices, I guess. He wanted to marry Rebecca and use her as her wife, before spreading the virus. That's a stupid decision. He could have killed Chris, he could have killed Leon if he wanted to during his tyrant state, but of course it's the main character syndrome. He's not gonna kill them. If he kills Chris and Leon at the same time, the Resident Evil franchise is totally gone. But like I said, as a villain, he actually had like good motivation. He actually had like distinct characteristic that sets him apart. It's a good distinction, I guess. At least they made an effort to make this villain different from others. And I actually like the side villain, which will pop up again in a future film. I actually appreciate that they remembered some of the characters that's alive in other films. And the Brute here is also okay. He had great character design, like he had a great design, but in terms of like attitude, typical Brute. Typical Brute. Overall, the characters are excellent, apart from the person who shot that railgun and destroyed like 5 buildings and still missed and didn't kill the main villain. Great job, you wasted the energy of the city and the whole budget of your organization. And also, thanks for pissing me off. Overall, like I said, solid film. Is the one that deserves an S here. Action scenes are excellent, characters are excellent, pacing, it's not boring. The only film that can stand alone, and if presented to the audience, they can appreciate it, they will understand the story. It has a simple premise, has a great start, middle, and finish arc. Villain is not that forgettable. His motivations are clear. Everything is perfect for a Resident Evil film. It's just a good balance of everything from iconic action to great story. Hence, it is an S. Let's go to the next one, which is going to be Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. And this will be... Yep, I put it in D. This Resident Evil is literally just utter... Yes, it's that bad, dude. So, they actually deviate from all of this because this is actually a film, and I still decided to put in here. This is actually a series, like it's a 4-episode series, and it didn't help, right? If you're thinking that, oh, it's a series, it has more something to offer, like longer episodes, nah, it doesn't offer anything. The best thing that it offers is that it has the best opening scene, and it has Shenmei. Apart from that, this film doesn't have anything new to offer. It doesn't have anything good to offer. It even has it destroyed Claire's face. I guess Leon still looks fine, but those two are like a mainstay anyway, so I'm not gonna put them at like a pro. This film is a straight up D. Why? Because this film is so boring. It's an exposition dump. It barely has a story. They presented the story of this series in terms of exposition. Like they're just explaining to the audience what's happening, and that's how the story is built. It has weak characters. It has weak, infected design. Like this first 2 episodes is just Leon in submarine and talking and flirting to Shenmei. And then boom, nothing. It just have the best opening. The opening of this is really excellent though. The action scene where Leon is in the office and just shooting infected reminded me of John Wick. Apart from that, this film is utter dog shit, and that is what D stands for. Straight up D. For the last one, but not the least, I'm gonna talk about Resident Evil Death Island. And this is actually a hard decision for me. I actually wanted to put this in S, right? I wanted to put this in S at first. Wait, before I explain, I'm gonna put it in A. So why did I put this in A? This Resident Evil, in my opinion, is a love letter for the fans of the series. The studio decided to put this as an appreciation movie for the long-standing franchise and for the fans. That is why it's an A, right? this could be an S for me, but I'm thinking of the people who's going to be viewing this video. There might be some, not a fan of the whole Resident Evil franchise. If you're a fan of the Resident Evil franchise, this is an automatic S. But if you're talking about like including the general audience who don't give a damn about who these characters are, this will be an A. Since I'm inclusive, I'm gonna put it in A. But as a long-standing fan, this is an S. Alright. So it's an A. Like I said, you will appreciate this more if you are a fan, because this is a love letter for the fans. Like, how can you be like, hey, let's put 5 main characters of the whole franchise and let's make it the shortest movie among all of this? Yes, this is the shortest movie among all of this, even including this. This is only 1 hour and 30 minutes, if I remember correctly. And you have 5 Resident Evil protagonists. Not even just protagonists, they are the main protagonists of the most famous Resident Evil games ever, man. You have Jill Valentine in here, for God's sake. This is the first Resident Evil film that she is in. She gets to interact with Leon, she gets to interact with Claire, and of course, Chris, the one that doesn't continue the bloodline. Anyways, yeah, to summarize, this is a film for the fans. If you're not a fan, you won't appreciate it that much, hence I will put it in A. But overall, let's keep it short. This film is perfect, right? Great action scenes, great story, great character design, great characters. I actually like their chemistry the most. Like, that is the best part of this film. The fact that these characters are talking to each other, they're interacting with each other despite having different, goals. They actually gave Jill the love she deserves. They actually gave her a character arc that actually rivals the other 4 main characters, and I appreciate that. Like, that's really the best part of this film. It's just these main characters interacting with each other. The villain is mad though. The plot is pretty simple. Like, they come together to the Alcatraz prison and then just try to survive. The final action scene of this though is really just pure fan service. Them just fighting multiple infected, they're fighting big infected monsters. It's just pure fan service. Like, it can get more better than that. And that's the only thing I can say about this film. It's just fan service. It's just letter to the fans, for the long-standing fans of this franchise. Story, pacing, character design, almost all the same. Action scenes are almost all the same, just more flashy, I guess, because they had to do it, because again, these are like the main characters of the Resident Evil franchise. But still be an A, because if you're not a fan, you won't appreciate what they did here. This is like the Avengers of the Resident Evil characters. And that will be the end of the Resident Evil tier list video. I hope you guys like this video. Sorry if I'm stuttering that much, but I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye.